Hold the line. We are Hold the Line.
Welcome to the Hold the Line podcast, where you get news, information, and connection to the community of gaming. This is the 10th episode, and today we are going to discuss the idea of cross-platform gaming, the impending death of social games, PS4 and Xbox 720 Durango, and DRM. So here we go. I am pleased to introduce you to our two guests today. We have Baron from Tuitt Gaming, whose videos you may have seen on YouTube and also in the media section of Hold the Line, and our previous host of this podcast, Matthew, who is back today to talk to us about what he's been up to, and some new information from Hold the Line as well. So let's get started with our topics. So we're talking about game releases and your personal news of the week. For me, this is sad and pathetic because I really haven't had a chance to sit down and play much of anything except Minecraft. So I'm not interesting. I'm going to turn it over to you guys. You might actually have something fun to do. Did you play anything this week? Let's start with Matthew.
This week I am still, for some odd reason, playing Strike Suit Zero. It's a Mechana. I guess the best way to explain that game would be Robotech meets Gundam.
Okay.
So, and I've been playing a lot of that. I've been playing some casual games on my phone and tablets and stuff, but nothing major. A lot of Hold the Line work.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, we'll get to the Hold the Line work, but Baron, how about you? What are you playing?
I am playing The Walking Dead, and
oh man,
the Telltale version, not the Survival Instincts, which I've heard from varying sources that it's either just 100% lovable or 100% just I hate it. So I'm still kind of mixed about whether to play that. But yes, I'm playing that, Halo 4, and I am looking to do some recording for the next Gaming Bites. So, look out for that.
Yeah. Well, I just got gifted Walking Dead Episode 1, and I want to play it, but I'm concerned because I was told I might have to take time off in between sections because it's this disturbing.
Some of it is. I mean, I don't. I'm not.
It's okay. You're still manly. You can say.
I'm not in a bad place from playing each and every episode back to back to back. So, but it depends on how skittish you are. I mean, there are some graphic scenes. So just depends on how cool you are and desensitized you are with gore.
How apt you are to run out and form a zombie survival plan.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Which everyone should have, by the way. So, don't mess around with that. It's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, must have the panic bag just in case.
Uh-huh.
I think I saw a zombie survival keychain the other day, which I feel is taking it just a little too far.
A keychain?
Yeah.
It's just a keychain.
It's like pepper spray. It's a bottle opener. It has some sort of pills to help you get vitamins, for quick vitamination. I don't know.
Wow.
There's a little water. It was a bit of an extreme keychain.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So any games coming out soon that you guys are just itching to play?
Well, I have been looking forward to BioShock Infinite. I know that came out, what was it, like a week or two ago, but I really, really want it.
You should have it. It's awesome.
Oh, stop telling me. People keep telling me it's so awesome, and I'm just mad that I can't get it right now.
I was going to say, you're definitely going to want to get it, not going to lie.
You know what? Thank you.
Do you not look at my Facebook page where I screenshot every single day, every 5 minutes of that game? That's just beautiful, screenshot. That's also beautiful, screenshot.
Well, I try not to, but it's hard when my feed gets flooded with everyone telling me how good BioShock Infinite is.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell it was made by gamers, let's just put it that way.
For gamers, by gamers.
I didn't realize this was a GOG.com advertisement.
Oh, yes. Lord. No, not at all.
You mentioned, Baron, some of your videos, and I do want to make sure that we talk about that, and especially for Hold the Line people, hopefully are seeing them on the media section, but if they're not, tell about what the topic of these videos are in general, and I guess just more about them.
Well, my videos for holdtheline.com are mainly about video games. On my channel, it started being strictly about video games, and then I started talking about movies and stuff like that, so I'm trying to switch it up a little bit. I'm actually planning a little series for a TV show that I really like. So, I'm going to review every single episode to show everyone why it's so awesome. But going back to just the videos in general, I just try to have fun, just try to make them as fun as possible. And while I'm talking about some, I don't know, boring news or something like that, just to keep it entertaining, because I'm a clown like that.
Yeah, I think they're good. It's a nice way to hear your news in a less boring format than just reading it straight off of a webpage, because you have entertaining visuals that go along with it that usually have nothing whatsoever to do with the news, which is why I like them so much.
Visuals?
Yeah, visuals. Visuals of you walking around making faces and weird stuff and picking up objects and rubbing your eyebrows. I don't know. It's just entertaining. It's in a funny way.
Or random cooking shows.
Or random shows about sauces that have nothing to do with anything except somehow are related to gaming.
Yes.
This is not selling it well.
Well,
Right.
you got to switch it up from time to time. Keep people interested.
Definitely.
And for those wondering, you actually have to watch them to actually figure out what the hell we're talking about.
They're very good. I do think they're entertaining. And, there's a lot of news videos out there where you'll see a flash of, a shot of the game, maybe for 5 minutes, while someone drones over it with all the facts about why that game is entertaining. But it's nice to see someone who's enthused about their topic.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I'm,
All right,
I'm
so
hugging you both.
virtual hugs. So, Matthew, new man of leisure. Ha 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 ha. What have you been up to lately?
Lots of interesting stuff. I know we were supposed to be holding off on Hold the Line stuff, but a lot of back-end stuff for Hold the Line as far as content. A lot of stuff coming down the pipeline that I can't quite talk about yet. Some changes in our podcasting, obviously, for those that are wondering. Thank you, Jenesee.
You're very welcome. Beside the podcasting, every single thing you said sounded dirty. Can you just clarify on some of that stuff? What are you doing?
We have some interviews with some developers that I've been working on. We got some stuff from the editorial team that they're working on that I've been putting them into contact with some people. Some other stuff from Baron and I have been working on as far as video content, and some other stuff from some of our moderators who are actually jumping into the media team here shortly, actually. So it's a good time to be on Hold the Line.
Nice. Yeah, there's a lot of good articles I've seen on the front page. People are writing about topics, so people should check that out. If they're not on holdtheline.com, they should be. Duh. All right. Duh. Not to shame you, but you should be shamed.
It's just, you're listening to the podcast. Why aren't you on holdtheline.com too?
Because they're listening because they love me. Come on.
I know.
It's just good business sense.
Exactly.
All right. So stuff I want to talk about because I'm sad and pathetic on the gaming front this week. News in gaming and stuff that is dear to my heart, as usual. Especially women's issues in gaming. Stuff that I like to point out. There is something new that just came out today, actually. And I'm going to use a lot of acronyms, which I'll explain to you eventually. Two people have teamed up. The Women in Games International and the Girl Scouts of Greater Los Angeles. And they are teamed up to encourage basically people that are female to join the gaming industry, specifically as developers and things of that nature, which is great to see. And in order to encourage them to do that, they have made a Girl Scout badge, which looks pretty cool. It's like a pixelated heart on a kind of tan background. And the goal is supposed to be creating something called STEM. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. It's a video game badge based on those topics. And this is supposed to get girls excited about technology and areas that they're usually not the majority of the people that are going into that field. So just help people have a video game career and people to get excited about those topics. So apparently they've already introduced 40,000 girls to science, tech, engineering, and all of this. So it's kind of helping build the future of video games and encouraging women to get involved in the development aspect, which I think is very cool and is maybe making me think I should break out my old Girl Scout sash because I really want this patch, to be honest. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about this? Any commentary about it?
I think it is definitely a positive sign because after there've been certain other news about the gender divide within the developmental end of the game industry. That has been rather disheartening, actually, to see. What was it, 94% were male,
yeah,
give or take, and 6% were female. So any initiative like this is I fully support because it gets more creative people within the process creating video games for us as consumers to enjoy.
Yes, so I'd like to see it branch out beyond Girl Scouts of Los Angeles and hopefully, become more widespread throughout the country. It'd be very exciting. I know they already have the program, I believe for Boy Scouts, but I'm glad that it's moved over finally to the Girl Scouts as well.
The divide is really huge in the industry, and just in general, like you said, I'd like it to reach out to more groups, like for instance, the Boys and Girls Club. This is a good start. This is a good start. Getting younger people, especially young females, interested in not just video games but technology, because that's the way our future is going to evolve. Is that technology is going to be a big part. It's already a big part, and we're all connected in so many ways. So look at us here on this podcast talking over Skype. So it's just it's a good thing to get the kids interested in. And get rid of these stereotypes that that have lasted for so long and are so outdated, particularly against women. So let's get rid of them. Let's get the kids involved. Let's bring everyone together.
All right, some topics we're going to talk about today. The first one is cross-platform multiplayer. Now, I began thinking about this because I had an interview for the Gray Area podcast with the person who is working on Dungeon Defenders 2, and they were very excited about the idea of having people from PC, Mac, iOS, Android, and web all playing together on the same game, and being able to join, multiplayer, basically PvP areas and co-op areas together. Now, this is the first I had heard of that being implemented in quite the same way that it is for Dungeon Defenders 2. I know it has happened before in other areas, but I guess not knowing a whole lot about this kind of tech, maybe you guys do, to me it seems like if you're going to use the lowest common denominator, which I assume would be Android, no, maybe.
Ouch.
Is this not going to limit all the other means that you're playing it on, just to make sure that the person who is in that lowest common denominator has a fair advantage? I don't know, what do you guys think about cross-platform multiplayer?
Cross-platform multiplayer has been a topic of discussion since the inception of this current generation of consoles. It's been brought up a lot with specifically PS3 games, Xbox 360 games, and connecting with the PC. But that's really about as far as the topic of cross-platform multiplayer has actually gone. I mean, it's not to the point now where you can buy a game on PS3 and play with people on the 360 for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm.
They did start that once. They had an Xbox Live thing where you could do that, but it ended up being just basically an achievement, way of comparing achievements. I don't think it ever really took off as something that people played. I forget what the game was.
Was that Shadowrun?
Yes, actually, Shadowrun. Yeah, duh, I have it on my own sheet. Apparently released in 2007, which 360 players got to play against PC gamers. And the problem was that, with that game, was that apparently PC gamers had an advantage, like, in speed versus the Xbox people, which is why my assumption is, for Dungeon Defenders 2, that they are going to make sure that they have it equal across all platforms, because that was obviously a failure for Shadowrun.
Yeah, because I believe the biggest issue was frame rates.
Yes, and resolution for the...
I was going to say, when you have just the right amount of hardware on the PC end, obviously, you have a more granular control over your settings and your frame rates, and whereas on console, it's a fixed experience. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is the hardware, this is what it runs at, etc. So there are pros and cons to a cross-platform multiplayer. I love the concept. I hope Dungeon Defenders 2 does it great. My only concern is it going to water down the experience across the board, though?
That's my concern as well. It's definitely a con that could become an issue. I'm actually honestly very surprised, like, if you took an equal playing field of people on the PC and an equal playing field on people on the Xbox, that the PC would actually be faster. I mean, maybe the resolution was that much of a difference that it gave them that advantage, but I always figured, playing both, that Xbox controller is definitely, like, more efficient than the mouse click.
Yeah, most definitely. And speaking as a PC gamer,
Yeah, let me slide in here real quick and kind of... I don't know. I haven't played... PC games haven't been a big component of my gaming career. There were a couple of Star Trek games that I loved on the PC, but then I grew out of it and switched back to consoles. So in terms of cross-platform gaming, I mean, I don't know much about speed and everything like that, but I think it'd be a good idea. I mean, across handhelds, across phones, across PCs, laptops, tablets, and of course consoles. So if you have a game for a console that you want to play with someone on a PC, you can do that. From a console to a handheld, from a console to a phone, it seems like more of a positive to me. Then again, I need more, I guess, information in terms of, like, what you guys were talking about in terms of frame rate and stuff like that. And PC gamers having an advantage, more of a way to get people connected and not have such segregation in terms of, well, you have an Xbox 360, well, you have a PS3. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I would like to listen to what you're saying, but the fact that there's an entire brigade of Navy ships taking off, or Navy aircrafts taking off behind your head, is distracting me slightly. What is happening there, buddy?
I live on a main street, and sometimes trucks and motorcycles pass by, and I initially had the window open, but I figured it would be a good idea to close it because, of rush hour.
Of the Normandy taking off in the background from the Citadel? Yeah, I kind of noticed that.
But it's hitting you should know what I'm sacrificing to be here, and that is cool air. I'm burning up right now to talk to you guys, so knock it off.
Baron, you're my favorite thing on the Citadel. All right. Those were good points. Those were very good points. And all I can say to you about the details of it is what they were saying for Shadowrun is that the PC gamers were able to adjust the resolution of their screens so they could see more of the game environment, which gave them a better advantage because they could see things better, considering it's a first-person shooter. That was the advantage there. There is currently another game that does something similar. It's called Skulls of the Shogun by 17-Bit Studios. It's for Windows 8, RT, Windows Phone 8, and Xbox 360, which is basically an RTS. And it does go across all of those. But this is the first time, and this is why I'm bringing it up, with Dungeon Defenders, where I feel like it's kind of a more diverse cross-platform. And I think it would be very interesting. I've always wanted to play, like, oh, you know what, my friends play Borderlands on the PC, and I play it on the Xbox, and I like to play together. And this is kind of a neat idea of the future that, right now you could play on the web or on the Mac or PC or on your Android and Mac iOS device, all together with people. And I keep saying to them, like, I said this during the interview, do I want to play in a PvP environment with somebody who's playing on an iPhone? Not really, no. Do you? Because that would be my partner in PvP. That would be the guy that I have, right?
It depends on how they implement things like controls and various. The problem is you start getting into form factors and whatnot, like tablet form factors, PC form factors, console control form factors, and that's where you're going to start. That's where my concern of, is it going to dilute the experience? Because I will be the first to admit, I detest mobile gaming to no end on a touch screen.
Yeah.
Because the controls...
Take down the tower! Shoot the tower! What are you doing? Yeah, this won't be fun.
I was going to say, Baron, try playing a game like Modern Combat 3 or 4 on a touchscreen device. The controls are terrible.
Start slapping the touchscreen.
Well, it's like because they segment off certain portions of the screen, but where your digital controls are, but you don't always press those accurately.
I can see that. And this mobile gaming leads us kind of into the next topic, which is the social games are dying topic, which you've probably seen a lot of on Kotaku and various other gaming sites, because EA has made an announcement last week, I believe, that it was going to shut down 3 of its social games, SimCity Social, The Sims Social, and Pet Society, which were very popular at the time. And they're going to shut down some extensions of Madden FNL Superstars and NHL Superstars by May 14th. So that basically means like everything that's a Playfish in the Playfish genre will not be available on Facebook. So, hey, guess what? You won't have those requests coming on Facebook that you might have had earlier for those things.
Thank God.
I know.
Kidding. Oh my gosh.
But is this an indication that social games are kind of dying out? And why are the ones dying out that are dying out? Certain ones are doing really well, like Dragon Vale, which my family loves Dragon Vale, and The Simpsons Tapped Out. Those are doing really well, and certain ones are not. So what is it that makes a certain social game successful? And is the whole genre in trouble, or is this just an indication of the fact that those particular ones weren't modeled well?
The fact that it's EA, oh man.
It's a lot of EA in this one. I'm sorry. This whole show can have a lot of EA in it.
Well, EA is the one making the most drastic changes recently, shall we say. As far as the social gaming, a lot of these are in and of themselves Facebook games. I mean, we saw when, what the heck was the Dragon Age one that they closed down not that long ago? Legends, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there was a Dragon Age social game on Facebook and Google Plus for a while.
I see. It was so well popularized.
Yeah,
you knew all about it.
Yeah, right. That I knew about it.
But I kind of view it as what's been happening in the AAA end of things with the console industry or the console business or the PC demographic. You're going to have a lot of games that you're going to have a select few that stay popular. What do we have in the AAA space? We have our COD and, all those other type of high profile games that a lot of people play. You kind of get the same thing with what's happening in the social gaming. You get, Farmville 2 and, all the other.
Although Zynga's not doing very well. Apparently they've had to turn to actual real life gambling in order to try to make money. Apparently they're not doing very well. So you could see Farmville falling off too.
And some of that, though, can be contributed to other factors, like Facebook has been losing members, and instead of gaining. There's been a lot of changes in how people interact with the term social media or whatever you want to call it. This flavor of time on the internet.
Mm-hmm. Although you have to think that's evened out by the fact that you can get an app, for your phone. If you want to play Farmville, you can do it from an app.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of it is. It's technology in general is just an interesting transition point, and right now we're going through the console transition for the next gen. PC goes through a revamp every 18 months, give or take. And as far as technology, so it's always a evolving thing, and unfortunately, business models and businesses kind of fall to the wayside, unfortunately, and yeah, part of the modern business cycle, unfortunately.
Let me throw some stats at you, and then I want to hear Baron's take on it, too. So, stats. 3% of social games make money. 85% of players don't revisit a social game after the first day. And PopCap is doing well. All their games that are social, like, I think there's a Blitz game they have that's very successful as well. This is kind of a side thing. If only 3% of social games actually make money or entice people to make money through the game, I wonder, I mean, this microtransaction is obviously not successful. I wonder why it's so successful in, your regular, like, let's say, pretty much every game that you have on that's free to play functions exclusively through microtransactions. But they seem to be fairly successful. It doesn't seem to be so in the social games. It's kind of a different question. So, Baron, maybe you want to talk first before you address that. Why are social games dying, and if they are? First question.
Wow. I don't think, I thought that it was a fad when I first started getting invites for Farmville, and I don't know if anybody remembers Gangsta Wars.
Yes.
But that used to be my game, and then
Mafia Wars or Gangsta Wars?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mafia Wars.
There you go.
That used to be like my favorite game that I would get an invite for, and I leveled up so much until they started adding all of this new crap, and I just didn't understand it anymore because a lot of it I had to pay for, and that was before I understood the concept of free to play. But I don't know. I mean, I think people are like falling off of Facebook and graduating more towards Twitter.
Do you think that, or is it Google Plus?
Google Plus, Twitter. I think that MySpace is coming back in terms of
Justin Timberlake has made it cool.
Music and stuff. I don't know, but it just kind of it's. I think if people are falling off of it, there's got to be a reason. And my thing is that I hated getting all of those invites and everything like that because it's not conducive to what I joined a social media site for, if that makes any sense. But I lost all my points because we went off on another topic, and I can't.
I'm sorry.
I can't remember what I was going to say. So what's the next thing?
Whether microtransactions are different in social gaming versus a standard game that's a free to play, like an MMO or something else, and why they don't seem to work in social games. Why that 3%? I have some suggestions on why myself.
You go for it, because I need to think for a minute.
Well, I think the social game structure in itself is probably flawed, because one of the things that really annoys me about them, and I did initially play Farmville until it became so annoying you had to ask all your friends to play the game and then basically beg them for items. And it became upsetting, like it became an actual detriment socially. The social game became unsocial. And, certain games have evolved a little more sophisticated methods of trying to get your money that don't involve, basically relying on everybody else to exchange in the way that certain games are not doing well. And I don't know, I've not played SimCity Social or The Sims Social, so I don't know if they fall into the category of, being one of those games that puts pressure on you to come back constantly and asks you to, do things with your friends only, and kind of makes it so that you almost have to one-up each other, which I think is just not probably an excellent method to have your game structured in a social setting. Anyway, just my opinion. None of you play enough social games. Moving on.
I was going to say, let's put it this way. I have not played a social game since MySpace.
The original MySpace.
Yeah, the first reiteration before Fox bought them.
Well, you play social games on Twitter. It's called Fall Out Friday. It's just a little different.
Yeah. Well, that's a little... hashtag FF is a little bit different, though.
Is that what that's called?
Yeah. Yes. Did you not know that?
No, I see it everywhere, and I'm like, what the hell is that?
Follow Friday.
It's just a way of saying I think these people are cool and you should follow them. It's kind of like the chain letter of Twitter. It's like,
Oh.
Yeah, okay. Like, here's 5 friends. Those 5 friends should then pick 5 other friends, and it'll be a giant chain that makes everyone follow everyone at happiness and love.
Oh. Now I know, and knowing is half the battle.
Yes, unless you're like a jerk like me who never actually follows any of the people on that list.
Yeah, what the hell?
Unless they talk to me. All right. So those are all the topics I have. Is there anything else you guys wanted to discuss, like in our intro section, before we close up?
What is up with airplane food?
I kind of like airplane food, you don't? I miss it when we used to get that all the time. You don't get it anymore.
Ugh.
But see, I like microwave meals, so you can't trust me.
You're right, I can't.
You can't.
Wow. I was going to say, I can't say much. I live off the microwave anyway because of my job, so.
See.
Well,
You
I
should-
can't really complain, so do I.
So what you're saying is where you're located, close enough to all these traffic-centered areas and airports makes you think about airplane food? Where did this come from?
Nowhere in particular. You asked for a topic. I provided one.
A topic relevant to something we're discussing. And let me narrow that down.
Sony and the PlayStation 4. I love the fact that they have an announcement to show off a controller with a touchpad on it.
That was upsetting to me. I watched for like 4 hours waiting for prices and details, and we got to see a controller. But that was old. That's old now. They have things since then, yeah?
They've had things since then, but it's like they've shown off more hardware, more hardware specs, more trailers, more what they're quoting as gameplay demos. Sorry, ever since the Killzone thing from PS3 launch, I kind of take anything Sony says with a whole grain of salt.
Yes.
No, you're right to. It was basically a 2-hour. Let's wag our junk in everyone's faces and not give them anything in return. Like you said, I was waiting for the console. I was waiting for a picture of the console and a price point, and they had everyone get up on stage and say something. And Square Enix was my favorite. The Final Fantasy announcement of an announcement. that was my favorite part of the night. I was content just stopping there. But yeah, I mean, no hardware, no anything, and I'm just kind of really unimpressed.
Well, they're saying, I believe the price point that they're working with now is like $299 is like the ideal. It's come down from the $500. So that's a little more reasonable, I expect. And the big news, does anyone play FIFA? Like the soccer game? Because this game like comes up in weird positions throughout my life. Like, oh, guess what? Sony was hacked, and people that are hacking are playing FIFA, and this is how you know, because all of a sudden you'll see this gameplay all coming up in your system for FIFA. Like now the announcements that involve PS4, the large majority of them that I've seen are like all excited about FIFA 14 coming to PS4. Now 14, you understand? 14. This game must be awesome. I've never ever played it. But this is what everyone's excited about. Oh my gosh, it's going to be revealed if it's coming out for the PS4.
Well, I've played 11 and I've played 12, and I can tell you it's the same game. Because I used to work at GameStop, and I got to try it for free because it came in at least 2012 came in used like the first week it was out. And from 11 to 12, there was really no difference except for a roster. Just like Madden, just like baseball, just like the basketball, it's really just an upgrade in rosters and stuff like that, which is why I don't understand why that wouldn't work as a, I guess, pay for the new updated roster instead of releasing a full release every year. But yeah, it's basically this. You're not missing out on anything. Trust me. If you're not into soccer in real life, you will not be into FIFA soccer.
And let's rephrase this for those that are listening internationally. We mean football. We know the difference.
Yes.
We know the difference. Yes.
But no, I think Sony's taken a few missteps. I think with the announcement of the PS4. I'm glad to see that. I hate this functionality of, oh, you can share everything. I don't want to share everything.
I will not share.
But other than that, I was glad that they had made certain announcements, but that's, I'm glad to see that. I think they might have learned after recent interviews by one of their worldwide vice presidents or something, said that they kind of learned from the PS4 price point that it might have been a little too high.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, if you remember, I think they said the Blu-ray drive is 3 times faster than the PS3, and I like the controller. I mean, I have to say that I like the eye tracking aspect of the LED, and the fact that it's just a little bit different in configuration as far as the analog sticks. But yeah, it would be nice to have more information. I guess they're just waiting for some sort of major holiday. You would think Christmas would be what they're shooting for, I believe. So
I was going to say, I believe they said November of this year.
did they? Okay.
Which I'm wondering if it's going to be another, here's like 400,000 units, and we're going to see them go up on eBay for 8 times the price again.
Well, that's what makes it fun.
Well,
yeah, holiday 2013, whatever that means.
Yeah, I mean, you see that regardless. I mean, you see that with regular just copies of a video game. Okay, so you said that the Jenesee, that the price point is rumored at $300. Does that account for some type of membership fee?
No, I'm sure it's just basically here's the console on the shelf. You buy it for $2.99.
Okay, so there's no membership or here play on.
I'm sure it's the same as right now what you have for PS3. I'm sure it's the same methodology. They probably just allow for another console. Do you not think?
Gotcha. Okay. Well,
you don't have to get a live account.
It's just I'm not gonna go too deep into this, but I was looking at a 360, and they had that you buy it for $100 and then you pay for the subscription to Xbox Live. Mm-hmm. I guess over time or something like that. Or
it's monthly, or you can just buy a chunk. I have Xbox Live. You can get it in 6-month chunks or a year chunk. It's not bad. I think $30. I think for a year. I got it on sale.
Okay. Yeah. Is that the next thing that they're just gonna try to do?
I think every console is now going to have basically an online feature like PlayStation does. I can't really remember other than the PlayStation Store, what it's called when you buy the online aspect. But PlayStation Plus. I mean, I think you didn't have to buy PlayStation Plus, but you were limited by, you couldn't really play co-op with anybody else, or, you could just play single player sadly alone. I mean, it's same with Xbox. If you want to play sadly alone, you can do that. But if you want to have any sort of co-op, or you want to customize your avatar, or you want to basically be social in any manner, you're going to have a live account.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, PlayStation Plus kind of gives you, it'd be like some of the things that go with Steam, you get certain games for free, or you get a discount on certain games. And it's more of a perk than a requirement, which Xbox Live more or less is. I mean, you have your silver account for Xbox Live, but honestly, what can you really do with a silver account?
Nothing.
Exactly.
Well, the thing I thought was nice about the PS4 is they were saying for the release date that they were going to release it worldwide and globally. Because I think one of the issues, I believe maybe with PS3, or I could see it being an issue, is if you just released in the US, or let's say you release in Japan, and people have to wait 2 weeks, that's when you're going to have the eBay super big, oh my gosh, it's $800, because a week makes a difference in someone's life for some reason. So, globally is a better option. Then you won't have the idea of people, trying to sell it for 4 times the amount, and it won't make the holiday a little, more of a problem.
Yeah. So the price point, as long as it's not, we're not talking the $600 like the PS3 was when it first launched, I will be down probably buying a PS4 on launch.
Well, considering Xbox 720, Durango is going to release later this year, and probably similarly in holiday, you would think. So either, Thanksgiving or Christmas. Sony's going to have to be somewhat competitive. I mean, they don't have the field now. They're going to have to compete with that. So they have to step up their game a little. I can't imagine they would try to sell it for, tons more than Durango is going to come out for.
Right.
I think, in all honesty, I think that's why Sony held off on price points, price announcements, and whatnot, because they kind of showed Microsoft, hey, this is what we're working on, but on the same note, they wanted to hold enough back to be like, yeah, okay, balls in your court, Microsoft. It was kind of the take I got from the whole announcement and stuff they've been saying since.
Yeah, everybody's kind of taking their corner for sure.
But that's exactly what it was, and that's what kind of made me excited about what Sony was bringing to the table, is the fact that they straight up called Microsoft out, and they were like, "You go first." Come at me, bro. And then they go and hold the press conference, and it kind of just negated that whole cool factor that I thought was going on, and it just kind of ruined it for me.
No, I think we'll probably see a bunch of announcements around E3 time, like we usually do.
Yeah, I mean, I've been searching for a price point for 720, and there really just isn't right now, so you're just gonna have to wait and see.
All rumors and speculation until it's announced.
Always. Okay, so some news from HTL, like what is going on there that people need to know about if they go to the site, or you know what, if they just don't want to read, maybe they want to listen, Matthew. What's happening in that?
What is happening? We have, if you want the TLDR, the too long
TLDNR, HTL.
Exactly. If you want the did not read approach, we have our HTL Casual Gaming Night, which we do every Saturday.
Emphasis on the word casual?
Yeah, casual, because we don't actually have a structure. We don't say, this is the game you're playing. No, it's just a bunch of people having fun over that.
Really? They all play different games?
Yeah, we do.
How do you even talk to each other?
We have a Ventrilo server.
Do you go in like a channel for your
Yes, we do.
for your game?
We have all the channel information right on our thread for HDL Casual Gaming Night. So all you have to do is type in the event info and log in and go to the lobby. Doesn't matter what channel you join, because we'll all congregate in one channel or another, wherever usually the most people are. So.
Well, let's say I want to play Team Fortress 2, and Baron wants to play Warframe. Do we all stay in the same channel and talk about stuff that no one understands?
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. Good to know.
It makes for some interesting conversations.
Shoot it! Oh, what was that about? Going to the movies?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
We also have some other content. You know, we're still doing our Operation Weird Gamers.
Don't even look at me.
Which is breaking the gamer stereotype, you know, that this is the demographic for, you know, gamers. We're all male, lazy, unproductive members of society, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Other than that, we are always doing something on holdtheline.com.
I saw a huge article the other day saying the majority of game developers are 31-year-old childless white men. Did you see that?
Yes, I did. And that was actually the article I was referring to in our podcast.
Not actual gamers, just the developers.
Game developers? Okay, yeah.
Yes, which is very sad for them, because apparently as soon as they got children in a life, they were kicked right out of the industry or something similar. To make room for younger childless white men.
With this, and I believe out of all those polled, it was 6% were women who were also childless or whatever. And I was like, wow.
The point is,
that sounds like a damning thing. You are childless.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was like. Wow.
Oh, I want to be a game developer. Hysterectomy for you. What's up with that?
Oh my god.
Yeah, I said it.
This has gone completely out of...
It's gone off the rails. We have no idea what we're doing anymore.
I just thought that was a very sad statistic for the people that were game developers, because it was so limiting, obviously. And the fact that, you know, they had such a great turnaround for younger people that were entirely dedicated and not well balanced.
Yep, because I believe the article was most people in the industry are 1 to 3 years and don't last longer than 10.
Yes.
Which is sad.
It is sad. Okay. So anything you would like to say about Casual Gaming Night, which is what we were talking about?
Back on the topic. Casual Gaming Night. Come, play some games, have fun, shoot the shit with some of the HTL community, get to know us. We won't burn all the things if we play Team Fortress 2. Just watch out for a mouthy.
Medic! So what time is this Casual Gaming Night? Is it every Friday or Saturday?
It is every Saturday. I believe it is UTC time, so forgive me if I am not 100% accurate on the timing.
Okay.
I believe it is 3 p.m. Eastern is when we actually play. So that would put it 8 o'clock UTC.
Okay. And it will show up as a occurring event, so you could... does it stream? Can you watch it?
We do not currently...
It would be difficult considering there's a million games happening at once, but... Yeah.
I was going to say, HTL does not currently stream just because of the format in which it is done.
Okay. Baron, anything you want to say about that? Because I know you attend these.
Actually, I do not attend the gaming nights because they're mostly on PC, and I play console games, and I feel left out most of the time. But I do want to mention that on Friday nights, we a bunch of HTL members get on Skype and just shoot the shit there. Plenty of jokes, plenty of just made up games for no reason, and most importantly, plenty of alcohol. So there's that. So if you guys want to join in, talk to me, talk to really anybody, so you can get in on that.
It's Fridays. Does it have a name?
Fridays. No, it's it doesn't have a name. We just kind of
Baron's drunk hangout.
Yeah. We just kind of started doing it, and we've just been doing it almost every Friday.
Okay. I bet it wouldn't be that hard to form a console-based gaming night at the same time, and maybe you could do like a Skype thing or something. Like, I'm sure that there's ways if people in HCL have consoles, which I'm sure plenty of people do. It'd be something to think about.
Well, we're trying to organize a Halo night, or a console night, primarily with Halo. But yeah, we're trying to organize a console night every other Friday, but we didn't do it last Friday, which is when we were supposed to. Not many people were on, so I kind of found myself by myself. So
Aww.
Yeah, just we're working it out. We're working out the kinks, but hopefully we'll get it up at some point.
So if people want to find you on Skype to hang out for the Drunk Baron Friday, what would they find you as?
Drunk Baron Friday.
Drunk Fridays with Baron, whatever you want to call it.
That's going to be his new Skype sign-in.
Well, actually, I use my real name on Skype because I never thought I'd be talking to such awesome people such as you would find on Hold the Line. So, I am Vernon Tuitt, Tuitt, and 3 I's at the end because I am the third. 3 capital I's. So, if you want to find me, friend me, go for it.
All right. Well, thanks for being on the show, guys. Can you give your social information so people can hopefully follow you? Especially, I think you should check out Baron's videos, which are very fun. You can find them on holdtheline.com or directly on YouTube by doing a search for Get To It, or is there other ways, Baron?
Oh, my goodness. They can find me on YouTube. My handle is actually VTUITT, the number 3. A lot of my videos have Get To It on them, so that's not very clever, but still.
You better spell Get To It.
GETTUITT. And they can catch me on Facebook, also of the same name, Get To It. And Twitter as well, at Get To It. So, yes, it's all varied and very hard to find, so just,
Sounds like a good
hold fast.
Okay, just do a search for Get To It, and they'll find you.
Yes. I'm really looking forward to having people come by and, seeing what they think. So thank you. Awesome.
So, Matthew, Dark One, where should people find you?
People can find me on Facebook, Dark1778, Twitter, same handle. Holdtheline.com, same handle. YouTube, same handle. I am very utilitarian.
He's consistent like that.
So just Google search Dark1778 and you can find me pretty much wherever you go. My YouTube channel is a little dead right now just because I've been a little busy with certain other websites for some reason.
Certain websites that have the word line and hold.
Yeah, something about it. There's some website called holdtheline.com that I help work for, so,
All right.
Well, you know what? If people don't like the fact that your YouTube channel is a little bit dead, they can just deal with it.
Or they can go and see any new content I produced on holdtheline.com on YouTube or at the media page on holdtheline.com.
Nice.
There you go. I don't think people are going to be so critical. I mean, you just have to understand the social fan base is nice. They're not going to look at you and judge you for your YouTube content. It's okay. It's all right.
I am a human being.
It's okay.
That's awesome.
Okay, now we're going to move into our next section, which is about the always-on feature of the Xbox 20 Durango and about DRM. DRM is a rather controversial topic, and many of us don't really know how widely it's used or in what manner. So we're going to end up talking to Tushar here, and we'll have our Tech with Tushar section. Tushar is here with us from Technical Foul, foul being spelled like a bird. And he is my guy, one of my guys I go to when I want to know things about technology, which is often. And I feel that I should debate you now on DRM, because this is a big issue that's been talked about in the gaming world, especially with the release pending of Xbox 720, which is theorized to have always-on DRM. So it's been something, obviously SimCity, an issue, DRM. We should talk about that topic, I suppose, because I am the host and an awesome individual. I will take this section of DRM as great and allow you to have DRM is not great.
Wow, that's awful generous. You're putting yourself in a pretty rough spot there.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk a little bit about your site quick, and then we will have our debate while I cry quietly in the corner.
Cry quietly in the corner, that's good. Well, my name is Tushar Nene. I write for Technical Foul. Like Jenesee said, foul, F-O-W-L. There's a lot of nobility in the flightless bird of the barnyard environment. What I like to write about is pretty much everything tech when it comes to subjects that kind of mix. So I like writing about tech and politics. I like writing about tech and more about how it affects users in everyday lives as opposed to just like game reviews and stuff like that.
So now you have given your qualifications as to why you know what you're talking about. We already know I don't really on this topic, but we'll do the best we can. So I'm going to credit Infomec for giving me the information that I do have, just fairly.
Okay.
Now, always-on DRM isn't necessarily the same as just straight-up DRM, so we can talk about beginning just a short bit about always-on DRM, and I will state why I feel like it's a good thing, and then you can counter me and also tell me why you think it's a bad thing.
Okay, sounds good.
So, first of all, number one, I think it's a difficult type of DRM to crack. It's like one of the most difficult because it is constantly online. What do you say to that?
I would say that's true. I had a lot of personal issues with online DRM when I started playing Diablo 3 a little while ago. And what they had, and it was the same problem that they had with SimCity a little while ago, was that if you're not online, you can't play, which naturally means that there is a level of protection there that supposedly, say, I buy a set of Diablo 3 discs and I give them to you, and you install them on your machine. Well, unless you have you paid for it and get it online, you're actually not going to be able to play it just by putting the discs in and playing a single player mode like you're able to do in Diablo 2 and especially Diablo 1. So as much as they say that it's not a hard DRM method or a method of trying to keep people from pirating the game, it is extremely efficient in achieving that end.
Okay. Now we should also go back because I haven't really explained to listeners what DRM is and digital rights management and why it's called that, because I understand there's a distinction between copyright management and digital rights management. Can you tell them what that is?
Well, digital rights management is really, at least in the history of gaming, it's been more so don't steal my stuff, don't pirate my stuff, don't copy it to another disc and give it to somebody and let them to play. If we have listeners that are going back to the early 90s, that was the first time I ever encountered DRM. Even early LucasArts games like Monkey Island and Monkey Island 2, they had a system called Dial-A-Pirate. So if I bought a copy of Monkey Island, it came with a disc, and that disc had 3 tiers, and it had a pirate face in 3 sections on a wheel. So what it would do is on the screen, whenever I try to load the game, it will say, okay, line up this pirate forehead with this pirate nose with this pirate chin. And if you could do that, the corresponding code will allow you to play. So again, that made it really effective that if you didn't have that physical tool that came with the game, then if you lent it to a friend and they copied it and tried to play it, they wouldn't be able to play because they didn't have their Dial-A-Pirate. It even got a little more crazy if you are fans of British comedy with Monty Python's Flying Circus, that computer game that was in the early 90s, where in the instruction manual they actually had a bunch of cheeses, like little cartoon pieces of cheese, and each one had a different shape, and it would show you the cheese on the screen, and you had to put in what cheese it was showing you so you could actually play. So that's what digital rights management is. It is literally the publisher protecting themselves from losing money through piracy. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people that have been doing this a lot longer than me that'll put it in much fancier terms, but as far as I'm concerned, with my personal experience ever since I was a young kid, that's what it's come to mean to me.
I would like it to be simpler, so that works for me.
Great.
Now, the first one that I mentioned, it's difficult to crack, and basically it's a better, more efficient way to check if your product's authentic, because right now there are things like authentication keys which you can use, but they don't check constantly. They kind of rotate, and obviously someone, it's just a physical thing that doesn't necessarily prove that you as the owner have bought that game. You're just a person that happens to have that key. It could be anyone. You can give your number to anyone, and they could check. They could play it from another location. You can just say, people do that all the time. Like, here's my authentication key number. Just call me when you want to play, and I'll push the button, and Satellite will tell you what that is. Or, here, I'll take it with you, and you can do that.
Yeah, there's definitely ways around it in that sense. Back in the day, even before the age of the consoles and the PC games we have now, that was actually really easy to do. But it's becoming increasingly difficult to get around that.
Some people may have even figured out how to crack Monty Python's cheese wheel. I mean, there are things that happen.
It involved some thin tracing paper, borrowing my friend's instruction manual to the game, and meticulous hours as a 13-year-old child tracing cartoon cheeses on a piece of paper so I can play this ridiculous EGA game in MS-DOS where I have to find pieces of my brain to put myself back together and have some spam.
Proof that hackers are born.
Exactly.
All right. Number 3, why DRM is good, is because companies kind of have the right to ensure their products aren't stolen and have their creators be paid, which is obvious from the first 2. I would say that, you want to, this is a business. You want to see people get paid for the work that they've done, and this is a way to ensure that pretty much absolutely.
Sure, I'll agree with that to some extent. Absolutely, artists, publishers, well, actually mainly artists more so than publishers, in my opinion, should be getting paid for what they do. I mean, they put a lot of work into it, especially when you look at some of the games that come out today and the game designers and how much they put into it, especially when you've got budgets for video games like BioShock Infinite. To show a recent example, and just how in-depth and how much stuff is in there that, I really don't want to rip off the person that put all that time into making that game so I can enjoy it. So I do understand on that level. However, there are different methods of DRM. Like you mentioned, Always On. There were methods before where one company put a track on the outside of the DVD so that if that track had to be read and couldn't be copied, and if that track existed, then you could play the game. That method was defeated by a Sharpie marker. That's all it took, was a Sharpie around the outside to cover that track, and then it could be played anywhere. My biggest problem with DRM isn't so much the concept of an artist getting paid for their work. My biggest problem is when you move into the spaces like SimCity and Diablo 3 and, rumors of the 720, that the practices are becoming increasingly anti-consumer, and that's where my issues come in.
Well, here in my devil's advocate way, I'm going to say,
Sure.
If you know as a developer that this feature is a requirement, basically for every player, that's going to be worked in the functionality of gameplay, wouldn't you say that would encourage them to create an experience which maybe only can be achieved in an always online environment, like something special that would be, basically enhanced by just being online only?
Oh, absolutely. I call that an MMO.
Yeah, exactly. Warden, hello.
Yeah. So, obviously, if I log on to a World of Warcraft account, well, I'm going to have to always be on. It's a massively multiplayer online game. Everything in the world is teaming up with other people to do stuff, connecting to their world servers and doing all that other kind of happy stuff. But if you look at, the same company, if you look at Blizzard and look at Diablo 3 in the Blizzard example, most of it's on my side. There's very little on the server side that has to be pushed to me during gameplay, aside from authentication. So there's no special functionality I'm getting.
Do you think, though, if it's required for everyone, that they would have to implement some sort of functionality that makes it worth it to the user, or you think they would continue to be lazy like Diablo 3?
I don't think they have to. I think they should.
Yes. Okay.
Because, I mean, after all, what's the purpose of making a game? You want people to play your game, you want people to enjoy your game. At least if I was in that world, and sometimes developers don't really have a say as to what's going on with their DRM methods or online DRM. A lot of times that's going to be the publisher. But, I mean, I would try if I was a developer. It's like, okay, well, they're going to have to be connected on all the time. Let me try to do something to make that in addition to the experience. Blizzard's argument is that now you have achievements that, you know, if you're hooked up to their servers and you do something, you get an achievement or a trophy that you can show off to your friends, or you got your Battle.net chat, or you have stuff like that. What they're calling features that are beneficial to the user if they're always on, or like storing your characters on their servers instead of on your local machine, so God forbid your computer crashes and you want to play Diablo 3, that your character's still there and you don't have to level him or her from scratch. Okay, I can get that on some level, but the bottom line is, if I'm not connected to the internet or their servers aren't responding, there's a couple of points of communication that can fail that prevent me from being able to play the game at all. And, you know, I as well as a bunch of other people that bought that game, they paid their hard-earned money to be able to play it, and they should be able to play it whenever they want to.
I don't know what I can say to play it whenever you want to, other than the fact that the whole point of DRM is that the rights belong to the person who created it, and that you're basically just renting it or renting a license to be able to use it at their discretion. And the fact that they can allow you to use it at all is sort of like saying, you know, this is our gift to you in the eyes of the company.
Right. They're pretty much giving themselves all the power. So, I mean, like we mentioned before, DRM, to an extent, I can agree with their reasoning, but don't weaponize it against the user, which is kind of what we're seeing happening lately in the now and in rumors of the future.
Well, it doesn't always have to be about copyright as well, because sometimes it can be about use control, you know, saying that you can use it for distribution, you can use it to control content, but it doesn't always have to be that way. It could just be used to record facts about how that content's being used, maybe by who's using it, things of that nature that don't actually influence, you know, other than just recording stats at that point.
Right, yeah. There are some companies do that as well. But again, if you implement something like that, then that's not as intrusive. And I feel like if that's the reasoning for requiring an always on, then that method can also achieve results by not implementing always on and just having users voluntarily provide that information. There's a ton of software packages that when you install a gaming and not just software in general, that asks while they're installing it, hey, can we collect stats just so we can make the product better for you? And it's up to the user to say yes or no. There are certain products and certain games where, yeah, definitely say, yeah, take my stats. You know, I like this product. I'd like your future versions of it to be better. But you know, it doesn't mean I should have to be connected all the time.
What do you say to developers who want to constantly have updates and the access to be able to update your machine at any given time, and that's why they require online? You know, Steam is similar. There are games, obviously, you can be played offline with Steam, but everyone loves Steam. And that's basically, you're looking at DMR or DRM right there. I mean, Steam is a large, basically DRM machine, just like iTunes.
A lot of people don't recognize that. That's what's funny, because it's not being implemented directly in that, you know, in that in-your-face kind of way. When Steam first came out, I was the biggest opponent to Steam on the face of the earth. Because in my head, while all these online DRM pushes hadn't happened yet, a lot of people could look at Steam and be like, okay, wait, so I'm paying for this. Okay, so it might not be as much as I would go and buy a retail copy at the store, but if I can't connect to a Steam server, I can't play at all. I don't like this. This sets really bad precedent, and this is going to cause some problems. But it's that same model that people need to recognize is just being carried over and enforced far more strictly with, you know, recent fiascos, I guess, for lack of a better word, that have occurred with user backlash and online DRM.
Absolutely. I mean, iTunes is very similar. You have flexibility with content. Content owners obviously get paid directly and instantly. Right. Apple gets a huge cut of that, and they basically make tons of profits on that, and it's a good business practice. So, you know, iTunes and Steam, good examples of that. And like you said, you know, Steam is maybe more a gentler version, a more consumer-aware version of DRM, and that does seem to be the issue people have. It's not the fact that it's DRM; it's the fact that it's sort of always on. Seems to be the point of sticking is always on. Although Steam is pretty much always on. I mean, you can play it offline, but does anyone really do that very often? Unless they're on a train or a plane or something.
Yeah, not really. Like you said, Steam. Generally, most people play online, but those last two things that you mentioned specifically, can you play it on a train or, a long commute or a bus or public transit somewhere? Or you're waiting somewhere, or a doctor's waiting room or whatever. And that's what a lot of users are having issues with the always-on DRM practices, that, hey, there's a lot of times where I'm not connected. As much as you have all these companies and, the creative director of Xbox is saying, well, everything's always on all the time. Not really the case. If you look at mobile applications, stuff that's developed for the iPads or Android devices, the majority of the time, people are buying the Wi-Fi models of those devices because nobody's really going to want to pay a 3G or 4G plan to be connected to the internet or 2G, 4G network all the time with their iPad. They're going to use the hotspot version because it's saving a couple $100 up front. So, if they're somewhere traveling or somewhere that's not at their home base, they're just simply not going to have that unless they have a Wi-Fi hotspot right there.
Agreed. Something else good about DRM, sometimes there's try before you buy systems, which is useful for, as well as like a business model. You can rent to own kind of. There's some good examples of that. I guess Try Media and SoftWrap are good examples of try before you buy, and then afterwards you can use it. People also say that it helps save content that could be erased, and this one I have to admit is a sort of sticking point for me because I don't understand if you don't end up having the actual content available to you without having access to a server, how that is saving content, basically history. I'm not quite sure.
They mean more like saving your character. So so for example, Diablo 3, they have copies of my Barbarian on their game server. So if my computer completely crashes out and I've got to rebuild and or I'm building a new box, I put all my new equipment in and reinstall Diablo 3, I don't have to worry about whether or not I had a recent backup that had my character on it. I can log into Diablo 3 servers and my Barbarian will still be sitting there at the same level, same experience level as where I left them. Now, granted, yes, that is a benefit, but the cost, in my opinion, still outweighs that. I mean, I played Diablo 2 religiously. That came out when I was about a sophomore in college, and you had 5 guys in my end of the dorm that knew our IP addresses better than our phone numbers because we used to play on Open Battle.net so much. And that's what we used to do because Open Battle.net was such a fantastic system. It's saying, okay, well, you don't have to go through the Battle.net system. If you just want to play a LAN game with your friends, then play Open Battle.net. And you couldn't take an Open Battle.net character onto regular Battle.net.
So it sounds like, at least the stuff I'm presenting, isn't something you're arguing with, per se, that DRM is a bad thing necessarily. It's just the online aspect that seems to be the sticking point. So do you feel that DRM in itself is a good thing?
I feel like DRM in itself is a thing.
Because you're not arguing very strenuously. I've seen you debate. We have debated before. You're being very gentle. You can get into it. It's cool.
I'm being gentle because, I mean, like I said, people should get paid for their work. That's something that I understand and that I agree with. It's just that you shouldn't be taking that and creating methods to kind of screw the consumer into forcing that to happen. And now for somebody who has pretty much grown up for the majority of my life trying to get around DRM, obviously, I don't like it very much from my end as a gamer. I've had a lot of pirated copies of games. I don't do that anymore, but I definitely did for a very long time. But again, my real problem is making it so that you have a customer or consumer that's giving you money for a service that isn't available 24/7. And putting restrictions on when they can use a product that they've bought and opening up the debate of what is software ownership? Am I actually just leasing this software from the company? Is this just a license I'm allowed to have until, they end their authentication servers and I'm screwed after X number of years? Like, those are the kinds of discussions that stem from this, and those are the kinds of discussions that kind of make me upset on behalf of the consumers that also should be upset, even if they don't know it.
Okay, let's get into it then. The upset factor. Okay, I rent from Comcast, right? I rent a modem, which I could buy and have a modem. Let's say I own it. Okay.
Sure.
I have online services which I pay for every month.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, if I'm in an MMO, or let's say I have Diablo 3, and I pay a price for that game, and then I pay a service fee or whatever it is. Basically, you're renting that content. You don't own the content. You're renting a license. In the same way that Comcast can and does go down all the damn time, your content server could go down. It's not meant to. It's not scheduled to. It obviously could, though. So just because you could have a failure in service, does that mean that you shouldn't then still have this setup? Because you see it like in things that aren't gaming related or entertainment related all the time. You rent cable off TV. You're going to watch TV. You're renting that. I know it's a monthly fee versus like an individual fee, but it's a similar concept where you assume you're going to have access 24/7. You don't always have access.
Here's the difference in my head with the three things that you mentioned. Sure, you're renting a cable box, you're renting equipment from a cable company, but the very notion of cable television, as it has been for years, is that you are streaming content from a server that doesn't belong to you. And that is the service that you pay for. That's actually a very cut and dry agreement. I pay you for the means to access your network, and you give me the content that I'm paying you for. So I would say that's a little bit different. Now, if you're playing an MMO, again, that falls into the same concept. The very nature of the game, the very premise that the game operates on is that, hey, you're online. You're online all the time, and they tell you that up front. Nobody is going to play, World of Warcraft and not know that, or not understand from the get-go that, hey, this is a online game. The O in MMO stands for online, and that's the way that this game is meant to operate. Then the third thing you said is Diablo 3. So you have, an MMO cable on Diablo 3. Diablo 3 has no such premise. You're looking at a franchise with a history that did have a multiplayer component, but the primary game was single player. You run a campaign, you run through the story mode, you kill the bad guy at the end. And that has never been predicated on a permanent connection. There's nothing that was advertised, at least that was worth it in my opinion, that says, okay, well, the whole nature of this game is that it's online. It's just not true. The nature of the game is that it's a single player game that has multiplayer online capabilities. It should not be one that is like World of Warcraft in the sense where you have to be on all the time to play.
The predication is you need microtransactions from the auction house that you're supposed to be able to achieve at any given time. And if you want to play co-op with other people, which is a portion of the game, you need to have access to being able to be with them.
Right, but that's more of a when I feel like it thing. I'm not always going to be trading on the real money auction house or the auction house. I'm not going to. I'm not going to be playing with my friends all the time. Granted, the always-on way it allows it to do is that if I'm playing in one of the dungeons, one of my friends can just jump into the game without even telling me, which actually irritates the hell out of me because it makes all the enemies where I'm at that much stronger, and I'll usually end up dying. But yeah, that's a different topic altogether. I've got a whole set of stories of people that jumped in or bailed on online games or left me in the lurch and those adventures. But those are options in the game. It's not the core of the game, in my opinion. Whereas in a World of Warcraft, in an MMO style environment, that is the core of the game.
I see. The concept of people paying anyway versus being forced to pay by constant reassurance that they have access to this content legally and that they should is not a good business model, in the sense that without enforcement, honor systems fail, and resoundingly. You can look at so many sites. Hey, I've got a podcast. I understand this. It fails resoundingly. The people just will pay because it is the right thing to do. So how would you suggest that someone makes sure that their content is properly being leased under, the rules that they've allowed it to do, one person, one key, etc., without having such a connection?
That's a really good question. I don't think that anybody's really come up with a good way of doing it. Like you said, the honor system is going to fail every time. If you have any sort of game or any sort of software that's DRM free, usually it's going to be distributed free to begin with. But if You buy a game, it's DRM free. Well, if it's anywhere online, anybody can download it and play it with minimal effort, and they don't have to crack DRM to get to it, so there's not really much you can do about it. Even when you look at stuff like the Humble Bundle and programs like that, where it's kind of a pay what you want to honor system type of thing, when the first Humble Bundle came out, there were still a ton of pirated copies that you could find on Tuitt or the Pirate Bay or ISO Hunt or any sites like that. I mean, I could go to Humble Bundle, I can give them 1 cent and pick up 5 games, DRM free, and they were still pirated. So, like you said, the honor system simply isn't going to work, because even with the option of paying 1 cent and just downloading direct or circumventing that system and doing it with a torrent, they will pick the tougher free option every time.
Well, the DRM is supposed to theoretically act as a first line of defense against piracy, saying, like, this is crackable, we understand it's crackable, even if it's not online only, which is very difficult to crack, just the standard DRM is crackable, but the average person won't, necessarily have those skills or won't choose to do that route. And if you don't have that there as just a simple band-aid to say, hey, don't, then the sentiment aside of that it's going to basically lead to unsustainable levels of piracy, like you're saying. This is basically a proof, that the Humble Bundle is a proof that everyone will pirate if they have the option. So you need that just slightly harder thing to do, which allows it to not.
On some level, yes, but I don't actually see that amount of piracy that's occurring making it unsustainable to run games. I bet if they sold Xbox games for $38 instead of $60, they won't have as much of a problem.
You think it's the fact that the money is prohibitive that people decide to pirate?
I think part of it is that games are a little cost prohibitive. I mean, $60 for a game. Now, granted, there are certain games where I'm going to play and be like, yeah, it's totally worth it. But I've definitely played games that I've bought for $50 or $60 and just wanted to, I would be screaming in my basement at my TV, like, why did I pay money for you?
Do you think the price has been raised from your standard to that because of piracy? It's like, well, people are stealing this, therefore now those of you who bought it legitimately are going to end up having to make up the difference.
I think that's a theory. I'm not really sure, because if you think about even in the 1980s, when I was a wee lad and didn't have enough, money or even a job or knew what the hell anything was, Nintendo games, 8-bit cartridges for the NES still sold for $50. And now Xbox games sell for $60. So I don't think it's the bump in piracy that's causing them to raise the price. In fact, I think that the price of games has remained pretty constant since the NES and Genesis age. But you have a lot of people that are feeling a lot more of a sting with $60 now than you did back then, at least in my opinion.
What do you think will happen? Everyone's complaining about online DRM and how they feel as though this isn't fair. Again, it's completely, if I stop my debate section and just say, this is basically just purely for the company, not for the consumer.
Anytime you want to.
It ruins the point of a debate. Basically just saying that this is entirely against the consumer in that it doesn't benefit them. Not against in that it hurts them, but it doesn't benefit them. It's not a model that's anything but profit making. So let's say you go and you say online DRM obviously is not for the consumer. What do you think the consumer is going to be able to do? Because people want content and they don't care at the end of the day. We've seen it before, Diablo, all of that. People complain, and at the end of the day, they will buy it anyway. So what's the point?
Is that they don't care. And as much as I say that, online DRM's evil, it's anti-consumer, consumers have to realize it's anti-consumer. Consumers have to realize that the only way that this kind of practices are going to stop, or they'll even care about looking for other methods of attaining the same goals, or, not just lying to us and saying, no, guys, it's not DRM. We just, it's SimCity. Your city's on a server. It's safe. It's cool, guys. No,
have some candy, little boy.
Exactly. Get in the van. Let's build a town hall. I don't know. But, that's a little off track there. But, we have to just stop speak with your wallet. That's the only way that people are going to understand it. Publishers are going to understand that, hey, we don't enjoy this. We don't enjoy having this done to us. And what's nice is that at least now you have so much with social media, you have so much with the way that information proliferates over the internet, that you have a lot more consumers that are aware about this now. And you have people, like from certain Xbox developers, certain creative directors that put their foot in their mouth online and are rude about it.
Deal with it, hashtag.
Yeah, hashtag deal with it. What?
You do, but then again today or the other day, this week, you have another article coming out from Game Informer for Ubisoft Montreal CEO basically saying, I think that the audience is ready. I think that, this content requiring consistent connections is something that people are ready to do basically because they have similar necessities for hardware like phones and, all other things that they use to communicate with their friends, and that they think that the public is ready for something like this. And so basically now you have, not only the Xbox 720 going on, you have Ubisoft and other countries, practically, and other companies like EA saying like, this is the way it's going to be.
I'm not ready to equate my cell phone to a console just yet. I obviously can't speak for the rest of the American public, the global public, or the gaming community, but at least to me, I cannot classify those two things as the same.
How so?
I just can't. If you look at a cell phone, if that's what they're being equated to, and that's kind of some of the hoopla that happened from Microsoft, is that, the guy was talking about, everything's always on. Your cell phone's always on. Your tablet's always on. Well, that's different because I need to make and receive phone calls. So yes, it's connected to a network all the time, as it has been for decades, you ass.
Well, it's kind of like they're just saying, well, don't worry, we can take care of everything, and just because you won't have to worry and you're always online through other devices, that you should be ready for this to come to your games as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen. There's nothing that's going to stop it, unfortunately. When you look at all the efforts that they've put in over the last couple of years, last few years, the concept's been proven, and that's the problem, is that there's already been two extremely high-profile cases where they've implemented this. The implementation went horribly wrong. Fans that also had some skills with tech and hacking showed us all that, you actually don't need to be always on to play this game all the time. So why the hell am I connected when 90% of the content is on my machine and not on your server? But people still continue to buy it. So the concept that, okay, we're going to do this. People are still going to pay for it. They will whine and complain, but at the end of the day, still buy the product. That concept has been proven.
Yes, it has. So as much as I might rail against it, as much as you might rail against it, I think at the end of the day, let's say they, expect 6 million people to buy, whatever comes out next, and maybe like 3 million buy it. It's still a business model that is lucrative enough for them to continue to do what they're doing. Yeah. And, there's just not, I don't know, I feel defeatist, but I just really don't know a method just to stop it from happening.
Well, I mean, I'll say right now, I'll say publicly, if they actually come out and confirm and say, yes, the Xbox 720 is going to be always on as a requirement to play, which I know Kotaku's sources, I'm not sure where they came from, but said that 3 minutes is a threshold. If you lose your connection for 3 minutes, you drop from the game on a 720, at least with the beta kits that they've been working on so far. If that is true on release, I will not buy a 720.
Okay. Let's talk about that now. I mean, now would be a good time to talk about the Xbox Durango, and I know you'd written an article on it recently. People may be interested in the upcoming hardware aspect of it, so if you want to talk about it, that would be cool.
Sure. Kind of in the same vein of DRM, I wrote a couple things recently, both on the PS4 and the Xbox 720, or codename Project Durango, whatever you want to call it, where each company has kind of made a foray into that arena of, there's a big hoopla and backlash when they found out that Sony had applied for a patent for locking game discs. Okay, well, Microsoft did that too, and that was more of a kind of a fear from the consumer that this was a type of DRM that was going to lock a disc to a gamer tag or a user profile, thus nullifying the secondary games market. That was what happened with PlayStation. On Microsoft, I think was it last week or 2 weeks ago, where their creative director at Microsoft Studios said, everything's always on, deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So he never really answered the question, hey, is this going to require always on or not? But what are we left to believe when the response from somebody so high up in the Microsoft organization is telling us to deal with it?
I'm just saying that places out there that might be rural or not have stable internet connections aren't places that you should live.
Right.
Really?
I believe his exact words were, why would I ever want to live there?
Absolutely.
It just the attitude he took with it is what bothered me the most. It was just such a lack of respect for the people that buy your products. And, oh, well, power can go out too, so I'm not going to buy a vacuum cleaner. Or I have spotty service, I'm not going to buy a cell phone. These are all things that he mockingly said to people that were questioning, hey, is this going to happen or not? Instead of answering the question, he just mocked us. That was it.
Yeah, but he's now the former CEO.
He's not a former creative director of Microsoft Studios, but, because he really put his foot in his mouth, but that's really besides the point. So if you look at the Xbox 720 or the Durango, like I mentioned, the rumor is that it is going to have the always-on connection requirement, and if you have a 3-minute drop in connection, you'll be kicked from whatever game you're playing, even if it is a single-player game. So if I load up Final Fantasy, whatever the hell's out by then, and I put it in there, and I say new game, and there's nothing I need that's not on the game disc that I need to play and run through the first area, and I turn off my modem, or something happens and my modem blows, which has happened before. Modems go bad. I'm an IT guy at work. I see it at work. I see it at my friends' places. I see it in businesses. I see it in homes. It just happens occasionally. And when that happens, even on Final Fantasy, whatever I'm playing, I'm going to not be able to play anymore and just get kicked back to the dashboard. That's kind of the way it looks like it's going to be with the 720.
Is it going to have a constant save, though, is the question.
There's been no other detail revealed about that. And really, that's going to be, in my opinion, that would be game, on a game-by-game basis. Is the publisher or the developer going to put that feature in? So, if your internet connection does die, you're gone for 3 minutes and drop, that you'd be saved up to that point.
That would be very annoying if you weren't, especially in Final Fantasy.
Or if you're in the middle of a boss fight and you're about to lose. So I guess I could cut either way, but definitely some boss fights that I would want back if that was the case. But on the other hand, Sony's not made any such claims. So they're not saying that their machine requires always on. They haven't made any sort of assertion that that's what's going to happen. They've kind of got their own thing going on with their DRM systems, but always on was not listed as one of the things that they're trying to show. So with E3 coming up, I'm assuming as we get closer to the event, we're going to have a lot more leaked information on both consoles, and then kind of see which way they're going. But if that happens to be the case where Xbox says, yeah, we're doing it, and PS4 says, no, we're not, I'm buying a PS4. My decision is made for me, yeah.
So that will influence your buying decision then. That's good to know.
Absolutely will, yeah.
Okay, now speaking of games that must be connected all the time to the internet, or things that are DRM related, Shield.
Shield, yes. I had a chance to play with NVIDIA's Project Shield when I was at PAX East a few weeks ago, and it's actually a neat little device. I mean, it's kind of still in the beta stages, so there were a few glitches that I saw when I was giving my playtest, but it definitely has a lot of promise.
Describe it for our listeners who may not know what it is.
Okay, if you picture an Xbox 360 controller, something about that same size or weight, kind of similar button configuration, triggers, 4 buttons on the right, sticks on the thumbs, and then you put a flip-up LCD. But I forget how big the LCD is, but it flips up from the controller, so you almost have a self-contained mini console.
A little smaller than a credit card, I would say.
A little more, yeah, maybe. I wish I could remember the size. I want to say 5-inch. Yeah, that sounds right. I think it was about 5 inches, the screen. It runs at 720p, so you got kind of a little HD mini console in your hands that isn't really hooked up to anything. And what it's able to do, or what they've advertised it's able to do, is now you can play anything from the Android market that supports a controller, anything from NVIDIA's Tegra Zone, which if you already have a NVIDIA product that runs off of the Tegra processors you're familiar with. And then what the neat part was is that you can stream gameplay from a machine that's running an NVIDIA card, which was really cool. I got to look at all those options, and I was actually playing Skyrim on this little thing, and without a hitch of lag. That was the most impressive part of the whole thing. So they had this nice LCD, a 1080p LCD set up next to me that I was playing on, and then I would kind of shift my vision back and forth from the little screen to the big screen, little screen to the big screen. And control was good, response was good, there's almost no button lag. And over Wi-Fi, I was pretty impressed with what I was able to handle. Because Skyrim's a pretty intensive game. For those of you that haven't played it, yeah. Graphically, it was just gorgeous. So there's a lot of stuff going on there.
I'd heard that you could put maps on the smaller screen as well and use that almost like a secondary method of looking at things.
The rep from NVIDIA didn't confirm that.
Ah, okay.
So I can't say with certainty yes or no if that's the case. But what he also did say was that he could play Steam games as well. Which is probably going to be a kind of big draw for a lot of people because, as you mentioned, Steam is insanely popular right now.
Yes. Although it's only tied to Android devices at this point.
Yeah, the whole thing runs on an Android OS, the Shield itself. And what it has is it works with NVIDIA cards that are at least, GTX 650s or above. And then that's all plugged into the GeForce experience that they've been advertising for the last couple of years, or the last few cards that they've come out with. And that hardware encoding that they have as part of that is what allows you to be able to stream it from a GTX 650 to a Shield without too much lag in between. So that part of the Shield actually worked great. The part that was actually kind of glitchy was when I was playing something in the Android market. I was playing GTA Vice City. And you could see kind of polygons that were stretching and artifacting and doing weird things that they really shouldn't. So, one of the giant 80s bright pink buildings that they have in the game while I'm cruising in my Toyota it has like a giant spike coming out of the corner because a polygon didn't render correctly. Or, a ramp all of a sudden turns into a block and I run into it and get thrown off my bike or something like that. So, I mean, there still is some work to be done. I forgive them for a lot of that because they did tell me straight up that, hey, this is still a work in progress. This is not close to the final release yet. So I think that if they put a little bit more work into it, especially on the Android gaming side and the menu navigation side, which the NVIDIA staff seem to have some kind of issues with as well as I did, then it might actually be a pretty good unit. But as far as I could tell, the streaming side from a GTX 650 was actually really fluid and smooth, especially for a game like Skyrim. That was impressive.
Nice. Okay, anything else you want to say about any of the topics we talked about? Because I think we're pretty much wrapping it up.
No, I think that's pretty much all I have on it. But, just kind of closing thought is that, especially because the topic of discussion today was online DRM, or always on DRM, it's just, I like people that game, people that are heavily into games and software and media and music to kind of pay more attention to what's going on and not just blindly be like, oh, okay, I'm going to buy this game because, the trailer looked good. There's other things to take into account that have kind of a more meta effect than just getting the game thrown in your Xbox and playing it. And I think once, as a community, and I think it's actually grown a lot over the last couple of years, not only in gaming, but in like software copyrights, stuff like that, that people are becoming more aware. And I think it's always a good idea to try to familiarize yourself with these topics, even though it's not really pure gaming. It's kind of like peripheral subjects to it, but it's never going to be a bad thing.
Yeah, being a discerning consumer is very cross-platform of everything you should be doing as a buyer.
Absolutely.
Okay, so where can people find you if they would like to chat at you on Twitter?
See, my Twitter handle, I'm a pretty basic guy. So, like I said, my name is Tushar Nene. That's the name that I trade on. That's the name I use everything for. So if you want to get me on Twitter, I'm at Tushar Nene. That's TUSHARNENE. If you get me on Facebook, it's Facebook.com/Tushar Nene. And Technical Foul can be found at blog.tusharnene.com. Like I said, I'm a pretty simple guy, but I know what I'm about, son.
Yeah. Yes, you do.
If I can quote Ron Swanson for a second.
And that concludes our show. I hope you'll go to holdtheline.com where you can find further news and probably listen to this show as well. Obviously, we have changed our RSS. There will be a WordPress page out soon where you can go directly to download from the RSS and see just a brief description of each episode and probably an image, any extra info that I want to share. But I encourage you to go to Hold the Line, and you can find us on iTunes just at Hold the Line. We got rid of the word podcast in it when we had to change our name for iTunes to accept the new RSS. So it's just under Hold the Line. You will see all the previous episodes that Matthew has put out and any new ones coming up. So if you like the show and you need to resubscribe, please go to iTunes to Hold the Line or go to holdtheline.com where you can find us in the media section. If you have any questions or comments, we would love to hear your thoughts. So do that on holdtheline.com as well. So stay tuned for next week. Hopefully there will be some further guests, and if you have any suggestions for guests, always welcome as well.